You ever sleep in the back of a car in the dead of winter with nothing but a coat and a question? People looked at me like I was trash, parked outside a gas station, eating dollar store ramen with fingers still stained from Wall Street ink. They thought I'd lost everything. But the truth? I was never broke. I was on a mission. See, when my grandfather passed, he didn't just leave me money. He left me a challenge. Don't trust who loves you at the top. Find who stays when you've got nothing, he said. So I walked away from my six-figure job, my penthouse, my name on glossy magazines. I became a ghost in my own life. I let my family think I failed. Financially, professionally, emotionally. Because if love was real, it should have shown up when I had nothing to give. This story isn't about revenge. It's about revelation. And by the end of it, you'll understand why I had to fake my own downfall, just to find out who actually gave a damn. The day he died, I didn't cry. Not because I didn't love him, but because I knew the one person who ever saw through the noise was gone. His will wasn't read in some grand hall with mahogany walls and dramatic gasps. Nah, just a plain office in Manhattan, a dusty legal file, and a lawyer with tired eyes. To Noah Carter, it began, I leave the remainder of my estate, liquid assets, properties, and the trust fund, under one condition. My heart stopped. Then the lawyer looked up and read the rest. Do not tell a soul. Observe, and choose wisely who you bring with you into this future. Money is not meant to elevate the wrong people. It's meant to reveal them. I was stunned, not because of the money, but because he knew. He knew how my family worked. He saw their hunger for image, their worship of wealth, and he gave me a flashlight to walk into the dark and finally see clearly. $45 million. Locked behind a truth I had to earn. And just like that, the test began. I walked out of that office, not as a rich man, but as a man with everything to lose, and no one I could trust yet to hold it. There's something surreal about watching your life shrink into the back of a 2008 Jeep. One week, I'm sipping espresso on the 43rd floor of a glass tower, fielding calls from hedge fund managers and tech bros. The next, I'm brushing my teeth in a Walmart bathroom, dodging eye contact from a janitor who pities me just enough not to call security. I sold the Rolex, canceled every card with my name on it, disappeared from LinkedIn, ghosted every friend who only ever talked in stock tickers and brunch reservations. I made sure the only version of me the world saw was broke, lost, and irrelevant. Not because I was ashamed, but because I needed to erase the noise. If you really want to see someone's true colors, make yourself invisible. Trust me, it works. People started talking. He burned out. Got fired, maybe. Always too soft for finance. Even my ex texted, hope you find yourself, or at least a roommate. Perfect. Because now the stage was set. No distractions, no status symbols. Just me, a sleeping bag, and a quiet question echoing in my head. If I had nothing, would anyone still see me as someone worth loving? That question took me back to the one place I swore I'd never return to. Home. You'd think coming home after years would feel like sinking into a warm blanket. But when I pulled up to that old colonial house, with the blue shutters and the perfect lawn, it felt cold, sterile, like a museum of memories no one really visits anymore. They didn't rush to the door. No hugs. No, we missed you. Just a stiff nod from my father and a glance from my mother that scanned me head to toe like I was a stray dog tracking mud on her floors. Dinner that night was a performance, one I wasn't invited to rehearse for. My brother bragged about his latest crypto deal. My sister showed off a sponsored brand deal, something about collagen water. And me? I sat there, chewing through silence and chicken that tasted like cardboard and judgment. No one asked where I'd been. No one asked if I was okay. Instead, they passed around pity dressed as politeness. You know, there's always work at the gas station down the street, Dad said, half smirking. Or maybe you could run a YouTube channel. Everyone loves a comeback story, my sister added, without a hint of irony. I smiled, nodded, said nothing, because in that moment, I wasn't their son. I was a reflection they didn't want to claim, and that was exactly what I came home to see. 3 days after I got back, he asked to talk in private. We sat out on the porch, same creaky bench, same chipped coffee mug he never replaced. He leaned in, all concerned eyes and fatherly tone, like this was some heart-to-heart moment. "Son," he began, "I've been thinking, that little piece of land your grandfather left up north, it's not worth much, and it's just sitting there." I said nothing, just listened. "Maybe we could put it in my name for now, help you out with the taxes, you know, so it doesn't become a burden." There it was, wrapped in fake concern, like a poisoned apple. A favor that came with fine print. See, what he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that land wasn't just sentimental. It was listed as part of the trust. One of the few assets they thought was worthless, but had oil rights buried in the deed. I let him talk. Let him pretend it was about helping me. All the while, I watched the way he couldn't meet my eyes for more than a second. Like even he didn't believe the story he was selling. That night, I sat in the Jeep, fingers gripping the steering wheel tighter than I should have. Not because of what he asked, but because of what it proved. This wasn't about love. It was about leverage. And suddenly, the house I grew up in didn't just feel cold. It felt dangerous. I started noticing things. The neighbor's car parked across the street for hours. Same car, different drivers. A man with mirrored sunglasses following me through the hardware store. Even the gas station clerk mentioned someone asking about that guy in the Jeep. At first, I chalked it up to small-town curiosity. But then, I found the drone, hidden under a pile of firewood out back, black, silent, still warm. And next to it, a receipt, barely crumpled, with a billing address that made my stomach drop. Not a stranger. Blood. It wasn't fear that hit me. It was something colder. Confirmation. You expect enemies to watch you, not family. He must have thought I was hiding something. Maybe a bank account, a secret deal, proof that I wasn't as broke as I looked. And to be fair, he wasn't wrong. But it wasn't his curiosity that cut deep. It was the calculation. He didn't reach out to ask. He hired someone to dig. That night, I sat in the Jeep with the drone beside me, lights off, engine cold, wondering how far someone's distrust has to go before it turns into betrayal. I had my answer now. And this game, it was just getting started. She called it content, said she had this new campaign. Real stories, real people, meant to highlight local struggles, human resilience. Said I'd be perfect for it. "You don't even have to talk," she laughed. "Just be yourself." We met outside a coffee shop she never actually drank from. A perfectly framed shot, the sunset behind me, my worn-out hoodie front and center, a cardboard cup in my hands I didn't order. She adjusted the lighting, fixed my hair like a stylist prepping a model, then hit record. And for 2 full minutes, she poured her heart out to her camera about how proud she was to support her brother who fell on hard times, but was still full of hope. You know, there's always work at the gas station down the street, Dad said, half smirking. Or maybe you could run a YouTube channel. Everyone loves a comeback story, my sister added, without a hint of irony. I smiled, nodded, said nothing, because in that moment, I wasn't their son. I was a reflection they didn't want to claim, and that was exactly what I came home to see. 3 days after I got back, he asked to talk in private. We sat out on the porch, same creaky bench, same chipped coffee mug he never replaced. He leaned in, all concerned eyes and fatherly tone, like this was some heart-to-heart moment. "Son," he began, "I've been thinking. That little piece of land your grandfather left up north, it's not worth much, and it's just sitting there." I said nothing, just listened. "Maybe we could put it in my name for now, help you out with the taxes, you know, so it doesn't become a burden." There it was, wrapped in fake concern, like a poisoned apple, a favor that came with fine print. See, what he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that land wasn't just sentimental. It was listed as part of the trust, one of the few assets they thought was worthless, but had oil rights buried in the deed. I let him talk, let him pretend it was about helping me. All the while, I watched the way he couldn't meet my eyes for more than a second, like even he didn't believe the story he was selling. That night, I sat in the Jeep, fingers gripping the steering wheel tighter than I should have. Not because of what he asked, but because of what it proved. This wasn't about love. It was about leverage. And suddenly, the house I grew up in didn't just feel cold. It felt dangerous. I started noticing things. The neighbor's car parked across the street for hours. Same car, different drivers. A man with mirrored sunglasses following me through the hardware store. Even the gas station clerk mentioned someone asking about that guy in the Jeep. At first, I chalked it up to small-town curiosity. But then, I found the drone, hidden under a pile of firewood out back. Black, silent, still warm. And next to it, a receipt, barely crumpled, with a billing address that made my stomach drop. Not a stranger. Blood. It wasn't fear that hit me. It was something colder. Confirmation. You expect enemies to watch you, not family. He must have thought I was hiding something. Maybe a bank account, a secret deal, proof that I wasn't as broke as I looked. And to be fair, he wasn't wrong. But it wasn't his curiosity that cut deep. It was the calculation. He didn't reach out to ask. He hired someone to dig. That night, I sat in the Jeep with the drone beside me, lights off, engine cold, wondering how far someone's distrust has to go before it turns into betrayal. I had my answer now. And this game? It was just getting started. She called it content, said she had this new campaign, real stories, real people, meant to highlight local struggles, human resilience. Said I'd be perfect for it. "You don't even have to talk," she laughed. "Just be yourself." We met outside a coffee shop she never actually drank from. A perfectly framed shot, the sunset behind me, my worn-out hoodie front and center, a cardboard cup in my hands I didn't order. She adjusted the lighting, fixed my hair like a stylist prepping a model, then hit record. And for 2 full minutes, she poured her heart out to her camera about how proud she was to support her brother who fell on hard times, but was still full of hope. Small, tucked away Italian place on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, but just upscale enough to stroke their egos. Candlelight, white tablecloths, waiters who say, "Sir," and pour sparkling water without asking. They all showed up on time. Of course they did. When there's even a hint of money, they always show up early. Smiles, hugs that didn't linger, awkward jokes about how good it is to see you cleaned up. My brother slapped me on the back like we were frat boys. My sister came in filming the decor. My mother didn't even ask how I'd been. I played the part, grateful, humbled, maybe even desperate. Told them I'd been thinking a lot about the family, about legacy, about what Grandpa would have wanted. They bit into the bait like it was dessert. I watched them across that flickering table, laughing over wine and Parmesan, pretending like the last month hadn't happened, like I hadn't been sleeping in a car while they counted their followers and flipped property contracts. But I didn't interrupt. Not yet. Because when people think they've already won, they loosen their grip. And that's when you show them what they've been holding on to was never theirs to begin with. I waited until the plates were cleared. Dessert menus dropped, coffee poured, their guards down. Then I reached into my bag and pulled out a simple black folder. No drama, no theatrics, just paper and silence. "Before we leave," I said, "I want to share something. A few updates." They exchanged glances, polite but uneasy. The kind of nervous energy that builds when you sense a conversation shifting into something you can't quite control. I laid out the printouts one by one, the drone invoice with the investigator's name, the raw footage from that viral video, complete with uncut audio of her rehearsing tears, the property transfer proposal, highlighted in red, signed by a man who claimed it was just to help. No one spoke. I could hear forks clink against untouched tiramisu. Someone's phone buzzed. No one reached for it. "I didn't record these to trap you," I said. "I just needed to know if what I felt was real." My sister stood up first, claimed she didn't know her editor left the raw files, blamed it on the algorithm. My brother scoffed, said, "Everyone looks into each other these days. Don't be so sensitive." My mother, she said nothing, just stared at the table like it might swallow her whole. And in that moment, I realized, you don't need to scream for the truth to land. Sometimes you just lay it on the table and let their silence finish the story for you. They thought the worst was over, that I'd vented, aired my grievances, and now we could go back to pretending. But then I said one more thing. "Also, just so you're aware, all access to the trust has been frozen as of this morning." The silence broke like glass. My brother's face snapped toward mine, all traces of smugness gone. My sister's jaw literally dropped. And my mother, her fork slipped, hit the floor, stayed there. I explained it cleanly, calmly. The trust had clauses. Clauses they never bothered to read. Clauses that gave me full authority to pause all disbursements, reallocate holdings, suspend third-party usage. And I'd done exactly that. Why? Because the house they were living in, the cars they drove, the business loan that came through at the perfect time, all of it was connected, tied to assets my grandfather left under my name. They never asked where the money came from, never questioned the sudden windfalls, because they assumed I was too soft to ever pull the plug. But soft doesn't mean stupid, and forgiving doesn't mean blind. I didn't threaten. I didn't raise my voice. I just laid it out. Every dollar traced, every string cut, every illusion gone. And for the first time in my life, they looked at me not with pity, but with fear. They waited for the twist, for the part where I'd say, "But I'll still help," where I'd soften, cave, give them a piece, just one slice of the pie they never baked. But that part never came. I looked each of them in the eye, one by one, and I said it straight. None of you will see a cent. Not out of revenge, not out of spite, but because I finally understood something. You don't hand matches to people who've already shown they'll burn you. They called me cruel, ungrateful, delusional, said I was cutting off my own blood. But blood is a biology lesson. Trust? That's earned. And every time I slept in that Jeep, every time I got laughed at, ignored, watched like a stranger in my own home, they taught me exactly who they were. So no, I wasn't going to bankroll their next vacation or fund their next facade. They had everything when they thought I had nothing. And in that moment, they showed me everything I needed to know. I wasn't cutting ties. I was finally free of the rope they were using to pull me under. No one followed me. I stood up, tucked the folder back into my bag, slid the chair in quietly. Not one raised their voice. Not one reached for my arm. The room just held its breath. Funny, isn't it? For all their noise, all their control, all their power plays, when faced with truth, they had nothing to say. I walked past the waiters, past the bar, out into the cool night air. The wind bit a little, but it felt good, like the sting you get after taking a deep breath in freezing air. Sharp, but alive. I didn't look back, not once, because I knew if I did, even for a second, I might hesitate. I might start wondering if they were sorry, if maybe, just maybe, someone was about to stand up and follow me. But that's how they kept you, with maybes. I reached the Jeep, closed the door, sat there in silence, and for the first time in years, I wasn't holding my breath. I was breathing again. Portland was gray when I arrived, not the depressing kind of gray, just muted, honest, like the city didn't feel the need to impress anyone. I rented a one-bedroom apartment above a bookstore that smelled like paper and rain. No doorman, no valet, just creaky stairs, a leaky faucet, and more quiet than I knew what to do with. And it was perfect. Every morning, I made coffee with beans I actually ground myself. Walked to the park in sneakers, not polished shoes. Watched strangers play chess without saying a word. No one knew my name. No one cared who I used to be. And in that anonymity, I found clarity. See, starting over isn't about burning everything down. It's about letting go of the versions of yourself that were built for other people's approval. I didn't miss the glass offices or fake smiles. I missed stillness. And now I had it. No more pretending. No more testing. No more waiting to be hurt. Just air, space, silence. People think starting over means losing everything. But the truth? Sometimes, starting over means you finally stopped carrying what was never yours to begin with. The money was never the point, but that didn't mean it couldn't have a purpose. So I set up a foundation, quietly. No press, no photo ops, no last name on the front of a shiny building. Just a single landing page, a few application forms, and a mission: to give first-gen college students in finance and psychology the shot no one ever gave me. I called it the Carter Fellowship. Not for legacy, but as a reminder of where I came from and who I chose to be despite it. The first recipient was a girl from Detroit. worked nights to support her brothers, studied during her lunch breaks, still managed a 4.0. When we told her she got the grant, she cried so hard she couldn't speak. She didn't thank me. She thanked the version of herself she never gave up on. That's when I knew. This was what money was meant for. Not validation, not control, not dinner tables where love comes with strings attached, but for doors, real ones, that open when someone's been knocking their whole life and no one ever answered. For a while, I kept writing. Not emails, not texts, letters, real ones, folded by hand, sealed with care, addressed in neat block letters like they mattered. One for each of them. No accusations, no bitterness, just honesty. Questions I still carried. Memories I missed. A soft, "I hope you're okay," tucked in the margins. I mailed them one by one and waited. Weeks turned into months. The mailbox stayed silent. Not even a return to sender. Maybe they read them. Maybe they didn't. But that silence, it was louder than any argument we'd ever had. Eventually, I stopped writing. Not because I didn't care, but because I realized they didn't want to be found. And maybe that's the part they never understood. Forgiveness doesn't need a reply. Closure isn't always a door that gets shut. Sometimes it's the decision to stop knocking. I used to think wealth was a number, a balance, a portfolio, a net worth scrawled across glossy paper. Wealth is walking down the street and not shrinking when you pass someone who looks like the old you. It's knowing you have enough to give without needing to be thanked. It's silence that doesn't feel empty. It's waking up without dread. It's a name that means something only because you earned it, not because it was printed on a check. Some days I still catch myself counting. Old habits, I guess. But now I count differently. Moments, choices, people who stayed, people I let go. Real wealth isn't loud. It doesn't scream or demand or posture. It whispers. You're okay now. And for the first time in a long time, I believe it. He told me once, long before the money, before the silence, before the test. We were sitting in his backyard, early spring. He was sipping lukewarm tea, the kind he always forgot to finish. I was 19, still full of fight, still thinking the world was black and white. He said, "You're looking at people like they're puzzles to solve. That's your mistake." I asked him what he meant. He smiled, the kind of smile that hides something deeper. Stop trying to figure out who deserves your love. Figure out who makes you feel like you don't have to earn it. At the time, I didn't get it. I thought he was just being poetic, wise old man stuff. But now I see it. The test wasn't about them. It wasn't about who failed me, or who lied, or who stayed quiet. It was about me. Would I let their choices change mine? Would I harden, close off, become just like the people I swore I'd never become? Or would I stay soft where it mattered? Turns out that was the inheritance, not the money, not the land, not the control. Just the chance to choose something better. And this time, I did. I didn't pack much. A few shirts, a stack of journals. That one photo of me and him on the fishing dock. Before time complicated everything, the Jeep still rattled like it always did. Brakes soft, radio stuck on one station that only plays old blues and weather updates. But it started. That's all I needed. The road out of town was quiet. Not the eerie kind. Just calm. Familiar trees blurring into each other. Gas station signs I used to race past. Places that held pieces of who I was. Scattered like breadcrumbs I no longer needed to follow. I drove slow. not to delay the future, just to honor the past without dragging it with me. No more proving, no more performing. I thought about everything I left behind. Not the people, not the money, but the version of me that kept asking, what did I do wrong? He doesn't ride with me anymore. Now it's just me, clear-eyed, unapologetic, moving forward not because I escaped something, but because I built something new, brick by brick, mile by mile. People always ask what healing looks like. Sometimes it looks like a dusty road, an open window, and a man driving towards something that finally feels like his. So now you know my story. But let me ask you something. What would you have done if you found yourself with everything, but realized the people closest to you only loved the version of you they could benefit from? Would you stay silent? Would you share it anyway? Would you walk away? Because that's the thing about family. Sometimes they hold you together. Sometimes they hold you back. I'm not here to tell you what's right. I'm just here to say, you're allowed to choose peace over blood. You're allowed to protect your future, even if it means letting go of your past. And if this story hit somewhere deep, if it reminded you of something you've lived through or something you're still living in, leave a comment. Let's talk. Let's break the silence. And if you haven't yet, hit that like button. Subscribe. Not just for the stories we share, but for the truths we're finally ready to tell. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.